Okay, enough about me screwing up with the videos. It's all about the next presentation. I'm gonna lead in. These guys have their own presentations, but I'm just gonna say I'm super excited to have the Brothers of Destruction here. Sorry. Sorry, was that good? Guys. I've known these guys for a while. I think I tried to hire you once. Or did we just have an interview? I don't think, I think we tried to hire and you said no.
You wanted to give us an internship.
Yes. And so I don't, yeah, see? Fuck. See, stuff I don't, I've just selectively forgotten. Anyway, so Jordan and Spencer have, wherever they've gone in this city, they've done killer work. And they'll probably talk to the process of how do they get to killer work. It's one of those intangibles about where does creativity start. But I'm not sure what is in their DNA to keep pushing and doing more, I guess, smarter, more risky, more provocative. But they've consistently done that. And if you meet them, they don't seem like those kinds of guys. You know, they don't look crazy. But who knows what happens on the weekends. But I would tell a little bit about these guys. I have to do 3 facts about Spencer. He dropped out of engineering school. He's terrified of flying. How's that working out for shoots? Okay. Once a client disliked his work so much, she started crying in the presentation. Okay. Usually it's like they like it so much they cry, but no, not yours. Okay. So, okay, facts about Jordan. He can turn anything into a Seinfeld reference. Jimmy doesn't like that. He never actually studied copywriting, and it shows. Okay, we'll see that through the work. And he doesn't have a podcast. I think that's a poke at all the fucking people that have podcasts. And here we go. I'm going to disconnect because you know how I did such a good job with the tech, and we'll get those guys going on their presentation. All right, welcome Jordan and Spencer.
This presentation's mostly GIFs, so you can
it's only GIFs.
So does anybody know what the Brothers of Destruction is? Anybody? Do you know? Yeah. So the Brothers of Destruction is when Kane and The Undertaker joined forces and became this basically unstoppable force in the WWE. And the reason that we've chosen this is because they're unbelievable and it's super fun to actually look at wrestling GIFs. And second of all, it just sounds awesome. So we kind of stole that from these guys.
They have nothing to do with advertising.
They have nothing to do with advertising at all. They're just kind of fun to look at, and we have lots of wrestling GIFs in the presentation. So, you want to...
Yeah. Speaks for itself.
Don't be too judgmental. And this is also the first time we're giving this presentation, so it's going to be pretty rough. But hopefully there's some interesting stuff in it. We've basically divided it into a few sections, and we're going to talk to you about why partnerships are important.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think we're going to cover too much about like ideating together. Is this like on? I can't tell if it's working very well. Yeah, we're not going to speak too much about like, oh, here's how you come up with an amazing idea, because most of the time we don't really know how to do that.
Maybe just closer to your face.
I'll eat it.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he turned it up for me. Yeah, I don't think we really know exactly what the magic formula for that is. We just kind of try to think about, you know, what have we gotten out of working together as partners for the last 8 years that we think might be useful.
Yeah, so we'll get into that. But before that, why should you guys listen to us? You know, you're probably thinking, like, are these guys idiots? Do they know what they're doing? We've worked on a lot of different campaigns around Toronto that have won a lot of awards and stuff, and that's awesome. But some of the stuff we worked on are Dunkaroos campaign. We just launched something for Flight Center, which is pretty fun. We worked on Nike, McDonald's, Sick Kids, and we just launched a campaign for eggs. Those spots are on TV right now. So hopefully you like those and you don't hate them.
Hopefully you're eating a lot of eggs now.
Hopefully you're eating eggs at night, which is the plan.
We got a lot riding on it, please.
So why is a partner important, right? A lot of people choose to work alone. They think it's better. Thank you very much, Stephen. All right, now he's gone. Things can get weird.
Switch to the other presentation.
Yeah. So why is a partner important, right? Everybody's thinking, at least when I first got into it, I'm like, I can do this myself. You know, I can brainstorm alone, and it doesn't really work that way. And it's
You
actually
totally can't. I can't either.
It's actually extremely important, and it'll just help you guys be better in a bunch of different ways. But first, we're going to talk about why a partner is important, and we've got it broken down in a few rules. So the first one, and probably the most important one, is that ideas come easier, right? The speaker notes aren't showing up in this, Jordan. The speaker notes.
Well, that's not good.
Doesn't matter. We'll just wing it. The rules are the most important thing.
Yeah, there's no notes showing up, so.
But ideas come easier. When you actually can sit and go back and forth with someone and bounce, crazy stuff off of them, it's just going to make things a lot smoother, and things are just going to come to you that you wouldn't do in a vacuum, or that you wouldn't come to in a vacuum. So that's the number one thing.
It's important to have, like, when those ideas come faster, because, there's two of you, so you're going to naturally have hopefully twice as many ideas, but knowing sort of like where that overlap lies is usually where you're going to find some interesting stuff.
Yeah. We're going to put a Venn diagram in here with like Jordan and me, and then the middle, which is the good stuff. But then we decided to let this next piece of work actually talk to that. Do we have to get out of it and then go into the...
This is an experiment.
On the bottom right there. Sorry, this is the only place...
Okay, let me get this straight. We have to somehow send this box from here to Germany?
That's the conundrum.
Whoa.
Yeah. Internationally.
Whoa. Slow down, Einstein.
Let me throw
box?
it back at you.
Okay.
The way I understand it.
Right.
This box has to go from here
Right.
to Germany.
Absolutely.
This box is driving me nuts.
Okay. Has this diagram helped at all?
Well, it's put it into perspective.
Okay. Explain the problem to me again.
We have to send this box.
Hey, do you guys know how to get this to India?
It doesn't have to be this hard. FedEx takes the hassle out of international shipping. Relax, it's FedEx.
So that spot this is our boss's portfolio. We're not trying to plug them. It literally is the only place where that ad exists because it's so old. But our creative directors are Peter and Carlos, and they worked on that probably 15 years ago now. But this ad actually came from them just talking with one another. And they were trying to figure out, like, basically what the idea is. And then they're like, well, this is the idea. And then they just wrote down basically things that they were saying to one another as they were brainstorming, and that became the spot, which was really kind of interesting. So they shot hours and hours of footage of these two guys just arguing with one another and improvising, and they cut this together, and I think it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite pieces of work that they've done. And then we took that, and we stole it from them for this next campaign that you may have seen, you may not have seen, I don't know. Why doesn't the mouse go over for me and it goes over for you? Oh, there it is.
Because I'm smart.
Yeah, okay. So, before Jordan plays this, so this was a campaign that we're working on. They're putting bacon on the Big Mac, and we had this whole strategy about like how the Big Mac is sacred, right? And you can't really put bacon on a Big Mac. That's crazy. It's not really a Big Mac after that. So we were having this discussion. We were coming up with this idea, and the discussion became the idea, and that's kind of what this is.
Now that's a Big Mac.
That is not a Big Mac.
What do you mean?
It's not a Big Mac. It's got bacon on it.
They call it a Big Mac. They make it so they can call it whatever they want.
They're wrong. You can't just...
They're wrong?
If you add another wheel to a bicycle, it's a tricycle.
man. Why do you
It's a
always do
completely
this every
different
time we go
thing.
to another place?
You can't
Why
call a tricycle a bicycle, so you can't call that a Big Mac.
It's still a Big Mac. What's this?
Fry?
What's this?
Fry with ketchup?
Okay. What's this?
That's an imposter.
You take a fry, you add a ketchup. It's a ketchup with the fry with ketchup.
Yeah, but you're just putting ketchup on the fry. It's not like you're changing the makeup of the fry.
Yeah, exactly. You're not changing the makeup of the Big Mac. You're putting bacon on it.
No, bacon totally changes.
I'm
the
fairly
makeup of the
certain
Big Mac.
you've just proven my point.
No, I've proven my own point. So what do I have to add to that sandwich to convince you that it's not a Big Mac?
It is a Big Mac.
How about a tire iron? Is it
You
still a
spend
Big Mac?
way too much time
leather
thinking
coat. If
about
I put
this
a leather
kind of
coat inside
issue.
a Big
I mean,
Mac,
when
is
you
it still a
go
Big
home-
Mac?
So that was just us talking, and we just wrote it down. But it's a perfect example of just like when you're just discussing a problem, like a business problem or whatever you're trying to do or whatever you're trying to solve with somebody, it can be that simple, right? It's like one of us said, I forget which one, just said, is it even still a Big Mac? And then that became the campaign. They've adapted this campaign in like 7 countries around the world. Like it's that simple, right? Just the ideas come easier, and yeah, so it's an example of that.
And this is one of those examples where a lot of people who we know have like seen it on TV and stuff, and we got messages like the next day. They're like, "You guys did that, didn't you?" Like, how'd you know? And they're like, "Cause that's you guys. Like, that's just you two idiots
Arguing
babbling."
about dumb things that don't matter, but makes for good television, I think.
Back to the wrestling gifts.
Back to the wrestling gifts. So energy in the room is kind of the second point of why a partner is important. And what we mean by that is when you have a partner and you're presenting to a client, it can be a very stiff, kind of rigid environment, right? Like a lot of people have trouble presenting. It's difficult for some people. When you have a friend there, or when you have a partner there, you can kind of play off of him or her.
Especially like a lot of the times you're gonna walk into presentations, you're gonna have the work, and you show up and it's like, oh, here, let me just show you these hours that I put into your brand.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm Jordan. Like, it's one of the weirdest experiences because you don't know these people. But if you have someone in the room that you're super close to, suddenly it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, and then you can come in and you can kind of joke with one another. You can bring up stories. It just basically takes the tension in the room and it just sucks it out, because there's automatically that camaraderie between you and your partner, and that energy comes in the room. I heard a quote once, I think it was from Pharrell, strangely enough, but Pharrell's actually a genius. We saw him talking in Cannes like a few years ago, and he's awesome. But he put a quote up, and he's like, the only thing that matters in creativity is the energy that people bring into the room. And I thought that was really awesome. Like the people that you surround yourself with, the positivity or just the give a shit factor from everybody in the room it's just kind of contagious. So yeah, the energy in the room changes when you're with somebody that you like, and your partner is the point.
And related to that, you can be in a room like that, and there's 2 of you now. It's 2 against maybe 1 if you're lucky, maybe 30 if you're not. But it makes it so much easier if you're both fighting the same battle. Whether that's defending an idea or just challenging a brief because it doesn't make sense. Suddenly having 2 people for something makes it a lot easier for other people to join in as well. So it kind of helps sway people onto your side if 2 people are already agreeing about it.
Yeah, like it's really, really hard to do good work. It really is. Like there's a lot of obstacles, and there's a lot of people that you have to convince. There's a lot of bureaucracy that you have to go through. And often you just feel overwhelmed because, sometimes you can feel like you're kind of the only one pushing an idea forward. And when you have someone there to kind of help you, it just makes it seem it just kind of makes it seem a little easier and less intimidating to do that.
All right. A good partner is going to cover your ass. And that means, they'll go to meetings for you. If you can't make them, you got to split up because a lot of times you get double booked into things. You get to take a vacation sometimes, which is amazing, and you look forward to that. But your projects don't stop. Your clients' timelines don't put pause on. So they're going to cover your ass while you're gone. Sometimes you're just going to be hungover. Like,
yeah, it's a reality. It's a reality of working. Sometimes you're hungover. You're not going to be sharp. Your partner will cover you. I cannot honestly stress this enough. If you want to have a life, it's just so much easier if you're with someone else that can help you every once in a while. You got to go to the laundromat because it's only open at a certain time. You can leave work and your partner will go to the meeting that maybe you didn't necessarily need to be in. It just it opens up your life to basically be a person and not just be an advertising person. there's this trend going on. Honestly can't stand it, and I apologize if anybody's listening on Instagram who did anything or who promotes this, but there's this stigma about working in advertising when you're young, where it's like, you're not gonna have a life, you gotta break up with your girlfriend, and it turns into like this slavery mentality, which I absolutely hate. Like, I just hate it. You need to have a life because that's part of being a person. It's part of having insights and doing great work. So having a partner just lets you have a life, which is really important.
Yeah. You can take turns having a life. This is super important. You have different strengths, and I know that's probably like, well, duh, like art director, copywriter. That's the whole point. But it comes from that, but it also comes from your personal life experiences. A lot of people, like Steven said, very different people. They might come from different backgrounds. Spencer and I come from oddly similar hometowns, but I think have had very different life experiences and like very different interests when we grew up. Like he knew a whole lot more about wrestling, and now I know a little bit more. But that's what gives you a lot of perspective when you're working on projects. You might get a brief that one person knows a whole lot about. So one project that we didn't get we weren't lucky enough to work on, but at Cassette, McDonald's has a partnership with the NBA. If we were working on that, Spencer is a huge basketball fan.
I asked to work on it, but they didn't let me.
Spencer knows just about everything that there is to know about basketball. So he'd be a lot more useful there. And I'd be more useful on, I don't know, something one day.
Yeah, like the skill thing is one thing. Like, you're better at different things, but like the insights that each of you bring to a project is what's probably the most important. Like if you just have your own life to draw from, you're going to create work that isn't as good as it could be. So
it's important that you have a lot of different strengths too.
Yeah,
like it's important to have so many differences.
Mm-hmm. Want to talk about this?
Yeah. This one's pretty simple, but you've got better odds at kind of succeeding. Sometimes you might be in a meeting and a client just doesn't like one of you. You might say something that offends them. I don't know. Hopefully they're not racist.
Yeah. This has happened before, and this happens to a lot of people. Like, it happens to creative directors even, where, like our bosses, Carlos and Peter, they're awesome. And they divide, when you get to a certain level, you have to divide the clients, and Carlos manages some and Peter manages another. And sometimes the client will get mad at Carlos or get mad at Peter, and then the other one will swoop in and they'll basically just like take over the business at that point. So it's just kind of awesome to have an insurance policy in those situations. It's pretty damn fun. This is kind of self-explanatory, why a partner is important. If you're working with someone who's your friend, it's just, I know it's a stupid cliche, but honestly it is fun. We get to think of ideas and for a living, which is amazing. And
yeah, there's rarely a single day that we're at work that we're not laughing almost the entire day, and that's not that common in a lot of jobs, and that's not common for anyone else at the agency either, I don't think, who isn't working with a partner.
Yeah, it's just lightens everything and just makes everything a little bit more easy. Okay.
I'm sure you're sick of the wrestling gifts, and they will end. So what makes a great partner? So I think we kind of touched on that, but these are going to get a little bit more specific on, you're probably thinking that you need to start pairing up, or you want to, you're looking for a job. We were lucky enough, we met in school, and we got hired together straight out of there, but a lot of people get hired into their first job on their own, and they get partnered up without knowing them ahead of time. Ideally, like, if that happens, you might, you'll be able to meet them before that, go for a coffee or go for a drink, and kind of look for these qualities in them. Or if you're working at an agency, you get hired on your own, but now you need a partner. These are some things to look for in people. I lied, the wrestling gifts are always going.
So same taste, different interests. This is really, really important when you pair up with somebody. You have to laugh at the same jokes. You have to have basically the same taste in a lot of things. And the most importantly, you really have to have the same idea of what a good ad is. That's so important. Like, if you want to have fun in this job and you want to make work that you're proud of and that you like, your partner has to like it too. So you have to, I'm going to show you an example. This is something that,
And this does kind of go beyond, sorry to interrupt, but this
No,
kind
no.
of goes beyond just a partnership too. Like that's one thing, working with our bosses, Pete and Carlos, we worked for them at BBDO and then we left and then we came back to work for them at Cassette. And it's because we agree a lot on what makes a good ad.
yeah, exactly. So this is an ad we worked on a few years ago. And we both came up with this idea, and we're both like, this could be awesome. But a lot of people we showed it to were adverse to it. A lot of people didn't like it, thought it was gross, and they just kind of didn't get it. They didn't see the value of it as being a good ad. We did, and our bosses did too. But if we didn't agree on that, we probably would have never made it, right? Okay, Jordan has to hold the cable like this for the rest of the presentation.
All right.
You can do this, right? You can stay focused and hold the cable at the same time. It's got to stay elevated like that, though. Okay, awesome. Now nobody fucking move. Yeah, so the YouTube comments on that when that came out were interesting,
Shocking stuff,
divisive.
even for the internet.
Yeah, just you can tell how a lot of people would argue about something like this, right? And we didn't at all, hardly ever. Even when it came to the transfer, the color, we wanted to feel like a dream, that really kind of muted tone.
So
yeah.
casting, when a guy who's 6'6"
Yeah.
walks in and he weighs about 9 pounds.
But all that stuff could vary. When you have, he really was the skinniest guy. But when you have the same taste, all those decisions too are a lot easier to make along the way, because you just agree on things. Him and I agree on pretty much everything all the time. We have different perspectives, but we agree on a lot of stuff, and it just makes work so much easier. I keep saying that over and over. I gotta stop saying that. Similar work ethic.
Yeah, you need to have a similar work ethic.
Fuck's sake.
We're moving too much.
Are we?
I don't know. Yeah, you gotta have a similar work ethic. I think everyone here, it's what, 7:30 on a Tuesday. You probably have a similar work ethic. You've all invested your time. You all give a shit enough to be here, so you probably have a good chance of all having a similar work ethic. But not everybody does. Some people aren't willing to work weekends or whatever, which is totally cool, and you don't need to do that. But it's just important to match. You have to have the same kind of style of working. Some people are morning people. Some people like to work late at night. It's important to kind of match up that way, because you're gonna end up kind of disagreeing on a lot of things otherwise.
Yeah, and you got to be able to test this out kind of before you jump in a partnership too. We had the luxury of being paired up in school in the same group. Our teacher put us together in school, and we got a chance to just work together and see if we liked it. And we found out that we had a very, very similar work ethic. Put in a lot of long hours, and we were willing to do it. We were willing to do whatever we had to basically make it up to our standards at the time, which was awesome. And that continues to evolve. Yeah. Okay.
I think this is easy. You kind of got to be friends. You got to get along. You got to, want to have a drink with the person, or, just hang out. If you don't like being around them, you're going to hate working with them, because you got to be around them a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna, if you don't like the person, it's gonna suck. just don't even try it if you don't like the person. Like you have to, like there's a saying, those who drink together think together. Like when me and him go out and we're just like loose and free, and we're having a few drinks and we're just talking about stuff, that's when a lot of the best ideas come. So you have to have those moments where, you just go hang out together and you're not really stressed out about work. And yeah, it's just gonna make life and work awesome.
And you'll probably end up on shoots and going places. Like you don't want to end up in the corner of Slovenia working on like a 6-day shoot.
That happened last year.
And being 2 days in and being at each other's throats. Like that's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
The first time we went to Cannes, we won Young Lions, and because we're 2 dudes, they decided that we had to share a room, and it was a really small room, and there was basically one bed.
We got to know each other very well that day, that first night together.
So you kind of got to be friends,
Yeah.
but not more than friends.
Yeah, keep in your pants.
Yeah. Is anyone here in a relationship with the person that they plan on working with?
It's totally okay if you are. Like there are exceptions to this. There are exceptions to this rule. Like we know a lot of people that do this. Like their wife or their husband or whoever is their partner, and they're actually really good. But we know a lot of stories where that hasn't worked out well as well, and it gets extremely difficult and extremely hard. So this is just a recommendation. Again, you don't have to abide by this if you want to work with your partner.
There
that's
are
fine.
exceptions to the rule, and there are people who have made it work for like forever.
Yeah.
We've met a lot of them, and it baffles me and it stresses me out.
Yeah, but we're going to talk a little bit about why this is kind of important later on. Shared ambition. So this is actually really tough, and it's hard for people to talk about, but you have to be able to talk about what your goals are together, right? Like where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want to achieve? What awards do you want to win? You have to be able to talk about money. How much do you want to ask your boss for? Do you want to ask for a raise? You got to make all these decisions together.
Even like, where do you want to work? You guys have an amazing opportunity that you can do these courses in like different cities, and you can do internships all over the world. But you got to agree on that stuff, and you got to talk openly about it.
Yeah. How to keep the romance alive. So this is how to keep a partner. That's what this section, and this is
You found them. You locked them
you
down.
found him, you locked him down, you got a good partnership, and
Share
that.
a desk.
But this is legitimately the hardest part. Like Jordan and I have been partners for 8 years now, and it's a lot of work. Like it really is. It's basically like a marriage, and you got to kind of treat it like one. So this is basically how to keep a partner after you've locked one down, and this is by far the longest section. Number 1, don't take it personally. You're gonna fight. You're gonna fight a lot. You're gonna argue a lot. You're gonna argue about ideas. If you're not willing to fight and let it go and move on, it's gonna be really tough. Yeah.
And don't take feedback personally. Don't take anything personally. This
Yeah.
is just advertising. I know like you're investing a lot of time and a lot of your personal life in it. But you gotta, at the end of the day, separate it just enough that it's not gonna upset you or conflict with who you are.
Yeah, like if you show your art director a line and he gives you shit, it's like you can do better, or he doesn't like it or something. Or if I show Jordan, a layout and he doesn't like it or you can't take that stuff personally when you're pushing each other. You just have to accept it. You have to talk about it, talk about the merits of it. I know it takes a lot of practice, especially as creative people. We're usually very precious, and we love whatever our thing is, and we have to protect our thing. And even if it's your partner who's trying to come in, and they're only trying to make it better most of the time.
Like to give you an example, Spencer, being the art director on every project that we work on, will say, "No, we don't need the line," and I say, "I will kill you."
Yeah, I always try to remove Jordan's lines and just keep it like as a beautiful image or something, and he always gives me shit. But
No one understands it.
everyone will understand it. They'll know what it means.
Don't keep score. This is super, super important. This is, I think, it might be the most important thing in this whole thing.
I think we've said that 4 times. 5 times.
Well, this is my opinion.
Okay, that's Jordan's most
That's
important.
why it's number 2 in the 3rd section. It's the most important thing. That's where you put it. No, don't keep score. So once you're in a team, there's no more like me. It's not my idea. It's not my thing. It's our thing.
Yeah, remove I from your vocabulary. It's like every email you send is from the two of you. It's always we, right? It's always our idea. Like,
yeah, like even if you're at home late at night, you know, you're about to go to bed and it dawns on you, you have this amazing idea, and you go into the next morning to present it to your boss, it's our idea. Like even if Spencer came up with it late at night, he's the one that usually works later at night than I do. But if he comes in the morning and tells me something, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And immediately it's, okay, this is ours now.
yeah, it's actually kind of fun because you just get to claim that you made stuff that you didn't actually make. But it just goes to if you share the workload, you know, you got to share the credit on everything, and that means taking responsibility for bad things too. But you got to ignore a lot of stuff.
And like, you know, if you win and you do a great piece of work, you know, you win some awards for it, you know, maybe you get a gold pencil for art direction. That's the writer's pencil too. Like it's not, I don't care if it says art direction or if it says writing,
Keep telling
whatever.
yourself that. No, that's a really good point. Like every award that a campaign wins it belongs to the team. It doesn't just belong to one of you. Apologize and move on. If you fuck up,
You will.
You'll fuck up a lot. You gotta say you're sorry. You can't hold grudges. It's a really simple thing, but it's another one of those things that's really hard for people to do and takes a lot of practice.
Especially for, you know, we're creative people. We are passionate about things. I know it doesn't look like we are. But, you know, you get energized about things and you tend to, like we told you not to, take things personally. But when you can divide that, like you just have to cut it off and move on and kind of apologize to one another.
Yeah. I'm trying to be really gentle with this computer, and it's just, okay. Have their back. Never throw your partner under the bus on a project, ever. Ever. If something goes wrong, you can't blame them. And they shouldn't blame you either. It's both of your thing, and both of you kind of have to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, if you drop the ball, you miss a deadline, like, doesn't matter if the writing wasn't ready or the art, like the layouts aren't ready, like, you're a team, you have to stick with each other through like all the wins and all the shit that you're gonna go through. Like, plus, like I said, there's strength in numbers. They can't yell at two of you as much as they can yell at one person. No, they're not gonna yell at you.
No, and this is also about like defending each other in meetings. You know what I mean? Like when somebody's presenting, they're presenting a script or an idea, you need to champion that person and really like kind of build them up a little bit.
You're like a hype man in the back.
You're a
just
hype
like
man, yeah.
Repeat their words, like echo them really loud.
Yeah.
Like say something.
Like a Migos song.
Migos song.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, you have to totally be there for that person, and it goes back to what we were talking about the energy in the room too. If you're there to just like kind of play off your partner and make jokes, and I always do this thing. I hope none of my clients are watching because I do this all the time. But when Jordan says something in a meeting, and I'm in the meeting and the clients are there, I'll just look at him, I'll go, fuck man, that's a pretty good idea. And then you can just...
Even if it's not.
Even if it's not. But then the clients will look at Jordan and they'll be like, maybe it is a really good idea. I don't know.
Someone here thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I do too.
Yeah. But that's like, there are little things that you can do to just have your partners back when they're presenting, and they actually go a long way when you're trying to sell work. Evolve together. So yeah, if you're not happy at your first job, but you like working together, you have to move together. You're gonna grow your skill set together, and you're gonna hone your craft independently. No one comes out of school, you know, a killer writer or a killer AD. You're gonna have to do that alone. But whenever you get promoted, you know, you get promoted together, which is awesome. It's really difficult. This is one like the hardest things to do, to evolve together and resist the urge to. You're gonna get job offers where it's like, we are looking for an intermediate writer in Dubai, and it pays $1 million, and you're like, and you
take that job. don't listen to him. If someone's offering you $1 million, I don't care what it's for. You take that job.
No, but you have to really try hard to stay together, stay as a unit, and evolve together, and resist the urge to break off.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the most successful people that we've worked with or that we've seen, I think that you'll see anywhere, they're partners that have been together for a long time, and like that's a really, really common thread among some of the most successful people. Like our bosses, Pete and Carlos, have been together for what, 20 years?
I think
25
long.
years?
Well, Peter's like 80.
Yeah.
It's like
Peter's-
50 years.
Yes. Since Carlos was a young child, and Peter was much his senior.
Yeah.
Craig and James, who are our ECDs as well, they've been together since school, I think, as well.
Yeah, long time.
15 years or 18 years. It's nuts, and there's a lot of people who are super successful because they stuck together. Taking turns is really important. So if you're in a meeting, you might get some bad pieces of feedback. If one of you tends to get angry, the other one should probably try to simmer down and keep it cool. And then sometimes you're going to be the angry one and they have to keep it cool. But that's important. Like, you kind of have to take turns at doing that. Sometimes someone might be like, I don't know, pretty pessimistic. You might get mad about something. You might not love the outlook of a job or something. It's the other, it's your partner's job to be the optimist in that situation. You don't want to just be sucking each other down into like a pit of despair.
Yeah.
And
Like,
making things terrible.
my boss just gave me shit today for being angry all the time. And like, Jordan kind of balances that out a little bit. Like, when I'm angry, he's a little happier. And then when Jordan gets angry, I try to like kind of balance him out. But this isn't just about that. This is about like taking turns presenting in meetings. Like, you can't, if you're an alpha personality, you can't just be the one who presents all the time and your partner's just sitting beside you quiet.
Yeah. Like, that's the only way I had to work on. Like, at the beginning, I was pretty bad at presenting, probably still not great. But I was pretty quiet at the beginning. I was like, I knew that I had to get better, and like, I think it was just us figuring out that balance. How do we prevent Spencer, who's like pretty strong in meetings, from like steamrolling me, and how do I figure out how to like get up to that level?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of work together to get there.
I was also cocky when I was young and stupid, and I thought I was way smarter than I was. So I always tried to talk way too much in meetings. But you work on that and you balance that out, and you take turns, and then if you do it well, then you evolve together and you get better together, right? Okay. Choose your battles. So this isn't just with each other, like it is about being with each other. But with everyone else, like account people, clients, there's going to be times when you disagree and you can't fight over everything. You just can't. Well, you can, but it's not a good idea. But when it comes to partnerships and choosing your battles, like, even if I don't agree with Jordan sometimes, I'm not going to fucking argue with him all the time. Like, you have to realize what's important and when you should start an argument or when you should fight. And just kind of, like I did this with my wife, where you just, if something I know is going to be a big deal and she's going to take it the wrong way, I just don't bring it up. Like, it's just not worth it, and I'm sure he does that with me when I'm being a dick, or like I show up hungover and he's just like, I could make this a thing, but I'm just going to forget it. Like, this isn't worth it. I'm going to wait and, for when it really counts.
And for all the writers, that's how you keep a line on the ad. Your AD will try to remove it every time.
Okay. Swallow your pride. This is kind of about asking for help when you need it more than anything. There'll be certain things that you're just not good at, and you can't pretend to be good at it. Like, you can't I'm going to do this myself, even when your partner is like amazing at whatever you're trying to do, right? You need to be able to swallow your pride and just like ask for help when you need it.
Yeah, it's important to kind of drop, any insecurity that you have about your work. I think you could be a writer and your art director might just come up with a killer headline and you're like, fuck, I wish I thought of that. And you'll feel bad. You'll feel like you're not as good of a writer as they are. And maybe they got lucky. Maybe they're a good writer. I don't know. But just admit that it's a damn good line, because it's both of your work. Like, that's the most important thing. Same for art directors. Like, writers can give some interesting feedback on layouts or on art direction on a shoot or on whatever. And don't just think, well, I'm the art director, so it's my say.
Yeah.
If it's good advice, just take it. You got to learn from one another. And that's not just sort of like your craft. Like, it is important to learn, your partner's skills as well. Like, there's going to come a time when you might be ACDs or CDs or ECDs or whatever, but you're going to get split up more and more and more as you work together. So that doesn't really make sense. you're working less together. But you'll get hired, as juniors, and you'll work really, really closely all the time. And then as you get more senior, this is something that we've learned a lot in the past few years. The more senior you get, the more projects you're on, the busier you are, you're splitting up in meetings. You have to have a good perspective on the other person's side, and you kind of have to have their voice in your head saying like, nope, that's shit. Don't let it go there. Don't let the performance don't go there, or like, don't let that happen in a meeting. You just have to know kind of the other side as well, and that takes time, of course. But yeah, you kind of have to like take each other with you when they can't be there.
Yeah, like this is big, and they don't really teach you this in school, but when you get to a certain level, they'll divide the clients sometimes. Like they do this at Cassette with like our bosses Craig and James and Carlos and Peter. Everybody can't be everywhere at once, and there's a lot of clients at Cassette, so they basically assign clients to certain creative directors, and then those creative directors have to oversee those clients. But those like single creative directors, they had a craft. They were either a writer or an art director. So when you work together when you're young, you're kind of just absorbing your partner's craft, and you're kind of, like Jordan put it really well, you have to take that person with you when they can't be there. So it's really, really important that you can, most of all, recognize like a good line if you're a writer, or as a writer, you can recognize good art direction. Yeah, right?
I think this is a good time to, I just want to tell you, Spencer, you're doing an amazing job in this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is, like, nobody else is going to do this. I know it's really sad to say. You have to be your partner's, like, number one kind of cheerleader and just encourage them when they're doing a good job. And it's fucking really easy. Like, I don't know why this is so hard for people to do. Just, like, it's really easy to just look over and go, man, that's a killer headline. You're doing an awesome job. Or it doesn't need to be a big thing where you have to sit down with them or buy them a gift or some shit like that. Like, you can literally just say one line, like, man, that looks great. Right, that looks awesome. You did a good job. The deck looks awesome. Like, it's really simple little things like that that actually make a huge difference.
You got to celebrate the wins, and they don't happen that often. So, I mean, if you're incredible, maybe they'll happen every day, but most of the time you'll feel like you're fighting a losing battle, whether that's having ideas dying or you don't show up in an award show, whatever that is, whatever your priorities are. Sometimes you'll just feel like you're fighting a losing battle, but when you have those little wins, no matter what they are, you have to acknowledge them between the two of you. It's really important to just, if you're out after a long day and just a meeting went well, and just like recognizing like, good job today. Like, just, cheers. That's it.
Yeah, like when we were young and we started working, like we thought we were gonna be like hot shit like right away. We're like, yeah, we're gonna win fucking Lions this year. It's gonna be awesome.
This job is so easy.
This job's easy. And then like after about 6 months in an agency, you're like, oh my God, this is fucking really hard.
We're terrible.
Yeah, and then you go through years of just like entering work and just consistently, like you're gonna lose most of the time. And you don't realize that when you're young and you go in, but after a few years, like where we're at now, we've lost so much that when we do win, it's like you have to celebrate it and you can't take those for granted. And you have to just take a moment just to enjoy them, right?
Yeah, like it's impossible to be consistently incredible. Like I don't know anyone who is. I'm sure there's people out there who have a killer batting average, but even the best teams at Wyden and Kennedy, which is probably the most consistent agency in the world, there are teams there who lose.
Yeah.
Like, we see the highlight reel from what comes out of that place, but it's important to remember that like every team there struggles all the time too. So
Yes.
Don't ever like get down on yourself for that, but just celebrate the wins that you get.
Yeah, but don't get complacent either. Like when you win and you celebrate, that's awesome, but then you just have to move forward and look at what the next thing is. That's really important too.